Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our daily word. Today is Monday, May the 3rd of the year 2021. It's a rainy, cloudy day. Sorry, I'm a few minutes late this morning. I had some iPad issues trying to get it fired up, but hopefully you're joining me. It's a little bit late, but if not joining me in person, you'll find this a little bit later and you can watch. So the scripture for this morning for today's daily word is from Psalm 100. And we hear these words. Shout for joy to the Lord, all the earth. Worship the Lord with gladness. Come before him with joyful songs. Know that the Lord is God. It is he who made us, and we are his. We are his people, the sheep of his pasture. Enter his gates with thanksgiving and his courts with praise. Give thanks to him and praise his name. For the Lord is good, and his love endures forever. His faithfulness continues through all generations. And so we've heard from the psalmist a lot, and we've even heard this scripture from the psalmist about who God is to us as, as the good shepherd, as the God who guides us. One of the things that we try to do as we read scripture, and one of the things from yesterday, the story from Acts and Philip and the eunuch, that's kind of a difficult story, and hopefully as we talked about it yesterday, you got an idea of what it was about and why the story's there, and how God's expansive kingdom includes all kinds of people, even the eunuch in the story who didn't fit any of the parameters of what it meant to be baptized, if you will. So the idea of scripture, even for that story and for Psalm 100, tries to help us establish a perspective about who God is. Some people might call this a biblical worldview, that scripture is trying to teach us what is real, who God is, who we are, and how the world operates. And then in the midst of that, we figure out how scripture then informs us in our life. This perspective, who God is, who we are, and how the world operates, helps us then choose what informs us and what guides our lives. It illumines our attitudes, it determines our actions, and really is the undercurrent of our emotions in the world. So the psalmist from Psalm 100 gives us this perspective about accepting God for who God is. And that we are the sheep of his pasture, but we are not God. And as we might have been told, the world doesn't revolve around us. And so for us, the good news is that we don't have to bear the ultimate weight of existence in the earth. We don't have to carry all the burdens. We don't have to know everything in order to accomplish every single thing. In other words, we don't have to be perfect. Being sheep of God's pasture, as the psalmist reminds us, allows us room to try and to fail. It gives us the latitude, if you will, to be human. And then because we understand this, who God is and who we are, it then shapes our life in the world and then how we choose to live it. We are the sheep under God's guidance and care, and that's how, I think we engage with God and then engage with the world. I think the problem that we struggle with in our world, and maybe this is one of the things, as I've thought about having this biblical worldview, is that sometimes I think we have this idea that we can just run off to a better pasture. But the key to this idea of scripture is to acknowledge that we are God's, to trust God and to follow God. And then through that, we trust God through the possibility that God might then help us in our lives and move and shape us. Shout for joy to the Lord, all the earth. Worship the Lord with gladness. Come before him with joyful songs. Know that the Lord is God. It is he who made us, and we are his. We are his people, the sheep of his pasture. That's who God is. Know that the Lord is God, not us. Know that it's God who guides us And we are sheep, and we follow along, and we have God to guide us and move us in our lives. It is God who made us. We are his people, the sheep of his pasture. I always wonder for us, if we take on, which is what hopefully I try to do, and I think many of you try to do as well, take on this biblical worldview, and maybe today's number 287 of Daily Word, maybe I think it's what I've tried to have us think about in all these daily words together. This idea of a biblical worldview, that we take Scripture, whatever it is, and sometimes we've repeated Scripture because it just, Scripture is alive and it moves and it changes us. We take our biblical worldview about what Scripture is trying to tell us. So today, know that the Lord is God. It is he who made us, and we are his. We are his people, the sheep of his pasture. We know who God is, what Scripture is trying to tell us. And then it reminds us who we are, the sheep of God's pasture, and that we're called to be moved by God's presence in our lives. And then if we have that perspective, and then everything we do, words that we say, actions that we take, things that we post on social media, how we interact with our neighbors and our friends, how we, like Philip in yesterday's scripture, interact with strangers around us, even those who don't seem to fit our current lifestyle or fit what we think is in our box of right and wrong. If we have, it seems to me, if we have this worldview of it, that Scripture informs us and we act accordingly, that then somehow Scripture then is played out and God's guiding of us is played out, and it just kind of goes and soars into the lives of all of those around us. Now, I don't know that I always do it well, but I think it's what we are called to, and what this idea of how if we live our lives together as Christian, and we share it with each other, and we love God and love our neighbor, if we, like Philip, even though we've got a million reasons not to baptize this man, he encounters in the desert, he does it anyway. And the scripture said to us yesterday that the man went on his way rejoicing because his life had somehow been changed. And so for us, how does Scripture inform us? How does God's presence inform us in our lives, and the words that we say and the actions that we take, and how we treat each other? And I think if we let it inform us and let it guide our lives, then we make a difference in the world. And because we do, it may be small, but we have this ripple effect in the world that then changes it. Because one, we understand what Scripture is telling us. We understand who God is. We understand who we are. And then we live our lives accordingly. And that's that worldview of the Bible that informs us as the world goes about. So maybe that's something for us to chew on and to think about how it might affect us in our daily lives. So just a couple things to share with you. Tomorrow and Wednesday and Thursday, I have doctor's appointments to be at. Tuesday and Thursday have to be in Richmond, Indiana, for test on my knee, and so I won't be there for that. And Wednesday, I have an appointment. I won't be there for. Let me start over. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, there will not be a daily word. Tuesday, Thursday, I'll be in Richmond, and Wednesday, I have a doctor's appointment with my mom. And so it's all during this time. So we will not have a daily word Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday of this week. But I'll be back on Friday, and we can share in our time together, and we'll catch up on Friday, if you will. So look forward to seeing you again on Friday morning. Ask for your prayers in all of my travels that I have to be from one place to the next. Know of God's love and peace and mercy and grace in your life. Know of who God is and how God's life then flows through you as we share it with others. And know of my love for all of you. And I'll look forward to seeing you Friday morning at 10 o'clock. Have a great day.